In today's speech, as promised, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to heal your past trauma and how to become a genuinely confident man. So, to start off, I want to talk to you guys about how a lot of men who want to improve their dating life, they have a goal in their mind. They want to meet attractive women. They want to have great sexual experiences. They want to maybe get a girlfriend. Some guys want to have multiple women. They want to have a rotation. Everyone's got their unique goal. But I think ultimately, what each of us wants is to have love and connection and to feel empowered. Some of us want to feel really confident, really powerful. I mean, most of us do, but we experience that in different ways, right? For some guys, as I said, it might be finding that perfect girl and getting into a serious long-term relationship with her. Some of you guys might be having a couple different girls in your life, having a really fun, exciting lifestyle. But you guys are all here for the same reason. You all want to ultimately get better with women, and you want to have a great dating life. However, there's one little problem, is that as you guys are on this journey of going out, meeting women, doing approaches, maybe meeting women during the day, meeting women at night, on dating apps, through friends, you're challenging yourself. You're stepping out of your comfort zone. And you're taking all this action, and you have this voice inside of your head that tells you, you need to work on yourself. I'm not happy with where I'm at right now. I'm not satisfied with my current dating life. So I need to get better. So you sign up for a workshop, you guys maybe read books about dating, you are maybe part of Facebook groups, you watch different videos. So you're taking steps, which is great, to improve your dating life. But the big problem here is that there's something inside of you that is dragging you back, that is pulling you back. And it almost feels like every step that you take forward, you immediately or eventually take a step back. And when you think about it, consciously you obviously want to reach all these goals that you've set for yourself. But unconsciously, you don't feel like you're worthy of it. You don't feel like you deserve it. There's a voice inside of you that is constantly fighting every step that you're taking and sabotaging every single step that you're taking. You approach a girl, all of a sudden you have all these different behaviors like we broke down on the screen with model work. You fidget, you break eye contact, you pull away, your voice gets really high-pitched, you run out of things to say. And it's almost as if there is a little part of you inside that is screaming that it doesn't want love, that it doesn't want to be accepted, that it doesn't want whatever logically you've set out for yourself. And it's this constant thing that's happening with you guys where you want to achieve and you set these goals intentionally for yourself, but emotionally there's this huge disconnect where a part of you is fighting and pulling and dragging you back. And then on top of that, you guys beat yourself up and you tell yourself, why can't I just be good with women? Why can't I just have approaches that are successful? Why can't I just be fucking confident for the first time in my life? Like, what is wrong with me? Why am I so fucked up? I personally felt this way for so long. And I know what it's like. I know what it's like to walk up to a girl and have this pit in my stomach screaming, you know, don't mess this up, you're gonna mess this up. Don't mess this up, you're gonna mess this up. And have this constant turmoil that I'm feeling inside of myself. And this is why I did all this inner work, is because I realized that the problem wasn't what I was saying. It wasn't what I was doing. You know, I knew what I wanted. I kind of knew in my mind like exactly all the steps to take to succeed with women. But emotionally, I had this big wound. I had this big pain inside of myself that was preventing me from achieving my goals. And that's why I went down this whole journey of taking the more emotional, internal approach to improving my dating life. So the key, guys, and the answer to really getting good with women, and until you do this, nothing is going to change, is healing your past trauma. healing your childhood trauma. Because I want you guys to think of it this way. You are a grown man, but inside of you there is a child. There's a boy inside of you. The man who you are right now wants to succeed and feels like, why can't I succeed? But there's a little boy inside of you who is hurt, who's traumatized, who's abandoned, and who is not in alignment with the goals of the man who you are right now. There's a huge disconnect between the child inside of you and the man who you are right now. And that is the biggest dilemma. Because until you get to a point where the boy inside of you and the man who you are right now are in congruence with each other, they're arm in arm, they're on the same vibration, essentially. Every time that the man who you are right now takes a step, the boy's going to cry and fight and resist and bring you and sabotage you right back to what you're quote-unquote comfortable with, or to who you really see yourself as deep down. And this is tough to hear. So I want to get a little bit vulnerable with you guys and tell you about my own story. So I was a first child. Both my parents are Russian immigrants. And when I was 3 years old, both my parents were working. My dad was a software engineer. My mom was just a fashion designer, very, very hardworking, worked like 3 different jobs at different colleges. They were always really busy. So they provided very well for my family, but they weren't there for me emotionally. They were never really there for me because they were so stressed out. They were constantly busy. They were constantly in the middle of, putting food on the table, going out, doing whatever they had to do to basically make it. They sent me to a preschool. And this preschool was a preschool that at the time they didn't know wasn't the best, but I was really violently bullied for like a good 6 months when I was in preschool. When I was between like 3, it wasn't even like, I would say preschool, it was like before preschool. It's like when you're 3 or 4, around that time. I was put in a class where it wasn't just the kids your age, but there was kids that are a little bit older than you too. It was like a mix of like 3, 4, 5-year-olds. And there was this one kid in my class, I still remember his name is Benjamin. I just really wanted to be accepted. Like when I was in preschool, it was my first time really interacting with other children. I just wanted to belong. I wanted to make friends. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be accepted. But all I got in return was that I was beaten by this kid. He was older than me. He had some mental problems I didn't know at the time, but he beat me. He would hit me on the head every day. He would bully me. He would make fun of me. He would push me around. And when as a child, I didn't know what to make out of it. I didn't know how to communicate with my parents. I didn't know how to talk. And what happened was that at the time, if it only happened once, and when something like this, when trauma like this happens with you guys, when something that traumatic happens to you once, right? Let's say that a parent is neglecting you once. You get beaten once. You experience something once. You think that, okay, I might have done something wrong that caused this trauma, so let me just not do this again. Let me try to be better. Let me try to behave better, and everything's going to be okay. But when trauma happens repeatedly, when you get beaten and bullied and abandoned and neglected over and over and over again, whether it's in the example that I gave you guys, I was beaten by this kid many, many, many times over the course of like 6 months or a year, and the teachers kind of closed their eyes on it. Or if, say, you were like your dad or your parents like neglected you over and over and over again, dismissed you, weren't really there for you emotionally, you begin to think that it's not something that I'm doing that's the problem. It's who I am at my core that's the problem. And you begin to form a story in your mind. And the story is that there's something wrong with me. I must be the reason why my mom is drinking a lot and acting crazy. I must be the reason why the kids in my preschool are bullying me and making fun of me. I must be the reason why my dad never gives me love the way that I really would love him to. And you begin to form this inner dialogue within yourself that I am defective. And that's the exact dialogue that I formed. Because as a child, you make meaning of things. You form different stories and concepts in your head and models of how you see yourself and how you see the world. And at the time, you don't have the emotional intelligence. You don't have the wisdom to know that, okay, maybe somebody has their emotional problems. You don't even really know what emotions are at that point. Your brain is too young to develop these understandings. So you begin to associate yourself as the problem. And what happens is that it doesn't just stay there. You carry that with you your whole life. Is that you form this idea of who you are, is that because I was beaten, like I believe that because this kid beat me a lot, that I had the hardest time my whole life making friends. Because I thought that there was something fucked up about me. I thought that I was defective. And what I did was that there's a couple responses that you can take. In some cases, people completely wall off and shut down and just become totally mute. I went the other way, is that I rebelled and I revolted. And I became really, really angry and really mean and really crazy. And I started to act out. And the more that I acted out, the more backlash I got from people, from my parents. The more my parents just didn't know what to do with me. I mean, my parents weren't psychologists, so they were like, basically started to shame me for acting the way that I was. They removed even more love from me because of the way that I was acting. And I went through my whole childhood just believing that I was this horrible person. It's really, really fucked up. Right? Because this trauma that happened when I was young created all these different defense mechanisms in me. I pushed every kid away that wanted to be friends with me. I was suspended consistently in my elementary school for months and months at a time. I was always in the principal's office. And I had this whole idea of who I was. It was just this loner, this outcast, this kid that nobody liked and nobody wanted to be with. But I, at the same time, like needed some sort of attention. So that's how I would get my attention from people, is that I would just act out. So that's the thing, guys. And the idea here is that once you form this belief about yourself, that there's something wrong with you or something broken about you, what's going to happen is that you're going to hide it. You're going to try to hide it the best that you can because you don't want anybody to know. You don't want anybody to find out who you really are. So you have all these different defense mechanisms. To me, in my case, I was like externally acting out. Some people are more inward. A lot of you guys are a little bit more inward, where you hide it, and you protect yourself, and you put up all these walls. So you carry that with you into your adulthood. It doesn't just end there. And that's the toughest part, is that a lot of you guys are late 20s, 30s, 40s even, and you still have this boy inside of yourself who feels like he's wrong. He's not okay. He's defective. There's something wrong with him. And I remember this, guys. I remember being at a point where you hit a certain point in your life where you're like 15, 16, you start to like girls. You start to see that guys out there are kissing girls, getting dates with girls, talking to girls, and you're like, oh, I want that too. But when you try to make some sort of progress in your own dating life, there's something different between you and the guys that are not having issues. And the more that you grow and the older you get, the more you realize how real that is. I remember in college and in high school, feeling such anger at myself. It wasn't even at other guys, it was more at myself. Just seeing how easy it is for people to have fun socially. Like other guys are going to all these parties, they're having fun. It seems to be no issue for them. And I was like, why am I not able to do that? Why do I feel all this anxiety? Why do I feel all this shame? And it's tough. I know exactly what you guys are going through. And it's childhood trauma. That's it. And it's really sad. It is really painful and really sad to realize that like something that happened when you were young is causing all these problems up until now. Not only was it painful as fuck back then, when you were like 3 or 5 or 10, when this thing happened, but it's still keeping you trapped to this very day. You could be a grown man in your 30s or 40s, and you're still trapped by what happened back then. So I realized that that's painful and it sucks, but I have to take responsibility for it. And this is what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, is the light at the end of the tunnel, is that just because you had trauma doesn't mean that you need to be trapped by that trauma your whole life. And there's a very, very specific process that you guys need to follow to be able to finally heal from your past trauma and to overcome it and to be able to become emotionally free and to become a confident, a genuinely confident man who is able to go out and achieve the dating goals that you've set out for yourself. To go out, to have the sexual experiences you want, to have the relationships you want, to have the life you want. You are worthy of all these things. These things are your birthright. But you will not accomplish them if you just shove your past aside, shove your emotions aside, and just try to barge forward. You have to deal with your past. You have to handle what happened to you, and you have to really take responsibility for it. So here's the fine line that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. This is very, very powerful stuff. Is that on one hand, what you can do, like you have this trauma, right? You guys are right here. You're right here, and then this is the trauma that happened to you on this side, on my left hand. Is that you can become a victim in that trauma, and you could sulk in it, and you could be like, people hurt me, like my dad really neglected me. I was bullied, I was rejected. A woman that I was with in the past like cheated on me or like abandoned me. Then you could really sulk in this trauma and let it absorb you and really identify with it and let it really drag you down and feel bad for yourself, feel a lot of self-pity. You could do that. Or you could go the other extreme and you can be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I was like abused emotionally. It's all good. It doesn't matter that I was beaten for like years. It's all good. I'm all good. I'm confident. I can go meet women. Everything's fine. And then you feel all this extreme pain inside and hurt and feelings of unworthiness. So the way to heal trauma is to do neither of those things. On one hand, you can't sulk in whatever happened and feel really, really bad about it and like hate and feel resentment towards the person who did whatever they did to you. But on the other hand, you have to actually deal with it. You have to look at it. So here's the answer. There's 3 big steps that you guys could take to healing all of your past trauma. And this is what I'm going to share with you guys today. The first is forgiveness. The second is gratitude. And the third is self-love. And let's break each down one at a time. So let's start with forgiveness. So when you guys look back at whatever happened to you, whether it was somebody cheated on you, somebody left you, somebody neglected you, maybe you were beaten, Maybe even you were sexually abused. When you forgive, when you think of the word forgive, a lot of people believe that forgiveness means that you're forgiving this person who did whatever they did to you because that's the right moral thing to do. That because like you have to forgive or you should forgive, that's why you need to forgive. That's not why you guys are forgiving. You're forgiving whoever hurt you for yourself. You're doing this entirely for yourself. When you don't forgive someone, when you're angry at them, when you hold resentment towards them, what happens is that you have all of this pent-up energy that is eating at you. It's not eating at them, it's eating at you. You are creating more pain for yourself by not forgiving that person. You're in resistance to whatever happened. So for you to be able to heal the trauma, you have to forgive. As difficult as it may be, you forgive for yourself. You forgive completely for yourself. Totally. You do it for yourself. Even if it seems like the toughest thing in the world to do. And here's another reason why you guys forgive, is because the person who most likely hurt you was really, really hurt themselves. They had a lot of pain themselves. They were in a really bad place themselves. And even if what they did was really fucked up, and even really like unbelievably bad what they did, what if whatever happened to you, they did because that's all they knew in that moment. They were like ignorant and naive, and they were in a lot of pain as well. So when you guys forgive, what you do is you release that trapped kind of like, in a sense, like energy that is there, that is kind of sitting between you and that person. And you ascend to a higher state. You go from being the victim to being the victor. You step into a place of courage, because it takes a lot of fucking courage to forgive. Right? A ton of courage. You acknowledge what happened, and here's the big piece, is that you want to acknowledge that they did whatever they did to you. You're not forgiving because you have to, but because you're choosing to forgive. You're doing it from a place of courage and power, and you're forgiving them because you're doing this for yourself, and that you are choosing to heal yourself, and you're raising yourself up, and you're being the bigger person in a sense. And you're realizing that, hey, they were in a lot of pain too, and I'm going to have the compassion and the courage and the empathy to forgive. And it does not make you weak to forgive. A lot of people feel like forgiveness is weakness. It's not weakness. It actually takes a shit ton of strength and balls. It's a very, very confident and powerful thing to do, is to forgive. And to not be the victim. The second step towards forgiveness, and here's one other thing around forgiveness, is that you can't forgive with your head, you have to forgive with your body. You have to like feel the forgiveness. You have to not be like, I'm just going to forgive them, it's all good, but okay, let's move forward. You have to like forgive, really forgive with your body, like really, really feel forgiveness for whatever happened, and even some compassion for them, for having to do something like they did because they were in so much pain. Second step is gratitude. Gratitude is also really powerful. Gratitude is one of the most transmutative forces out there, is that I could take pain and turn it into love. So when I speak about gratitude and being grateful for your childhood trauma. That sounds really crazy, really fucked up, and out there. But here's what I mean, is that in the darkness, there's always a speck of light. And in every single pain, there's a little bit of joy and bliss in there. So there's a lesson that you guys learned from what happened to you. There's a certain experience that you gain from it. There's a certain power that you gain from it that you would have never had. If I would have never been beaten when I was 3 or 4 and never scolded by my parents and yelled at by my parents and treated like crap when I was in preschool, if I was never pushed aside, I would have never done the work that I've done to this day. And I would have never been able to share these lessons with you guys. You know where I probably would have been? I probably would have been another just quote unquote Chad working in like a job that he hates, some like insurance, sales, or real estate job, or just some job, some working in like an office, like doing something that I'm not passionate about at all. I'm not saying that people that work office jobs aren't happy. Some are, but a lot of them aren't. I would have probably been sitting in a cubicle just because I think that that's what I should do, instead of doing something that is so deeply personal to me, where I get to share these beautiful lessons with you guys. And that almost every girl that I date, or that I have dated in the past, and the girl that I'm dating now, I have this amazing opportunity to not only have like a great relationship, I'm able to be a mentor for the women that I date. And I'm able to make a powerful emotional impact on them. I'm able to like be almost like a father figure for them and help them heal from what happened to them. And there's no more kind of like enjoyment, there's no more better feeling that you have than not only being able to sexually connect with a girl and like get sex from her, but really make a powerful fucking impact on her where she remembers you for the rest of her life. Even if you're just seeing a girl a couple times, imagine how it is to help a girl leave her better off than when you met her, and help her overcome an insecurity or help her heal from some trauma. And the fact that you guys went through what you went through, you could learn to be grateful in a sense for some of the lessons that you learned from what you've went through. You have a power that most people don't have. You have an ability to heal others. You have the ability to share something beautiful with others. It's almost like there's something about you that just like is different. Women love men, and I'm gonna add this here. Women love men who have some level of like ruggedness to them in a sense, who have been through shit, who've overcome obstacles. So in a sense, the guy who has always been a natural with women, who had zero trauma, who's always loved by parents, and who's never had an issue making friends, who's always just like had high self-esteem, is just as attractive as the guy who went through a bunch of shit, who had a bunch of trauma, who healed all this trauma, and who overcame it, and who moved on from it. Both those guys are equally as attractive. Sometimes even the guy who's went through trauma is even more attractive because he's more interesting. He's got more to share. He's got more that he could connect over with people and with women. He's got more depth to him. Trauma gives you roots. It helps you also stay grounded, right? So when you've been through stuff, when you're hit with a future challenge, you're like, oh, I've been through shit before, I can handle this. Whereas somebody who's never been through anything, a lot of the time they get hit with something and they're just wiped out by it. Whereas when you develop the skills to heal your trauma, you could handle any future trauma. You know how to ground yourself, you know how to be vulnerable, you know how to heal yourself. So anything that happens, you're like a machine. You become unstoppable. So there is a huge gift in whatever you guys have been through. The final piece is the most important, and that's self-love. And a lot of people have, these crazy ideas about what self-love is. They think that self-love is this woo-woo thing out there that you gotta love yourself, and they think that self-love means going to yoga several times a week, or whatever. There's a lot of misconceptions about what self-love is. Self-love is acceptance. That's what self-love is. Self-love and acceptance, specifically emotional acceptance, is the best way that I could describe it. I used to be really confused about what the hell does this whole idea of self-love means. I even thought it was super feminine to practice self-love, to love myself. But there's actually nothing more masculine and powerful than having the ability to accept. Same as with forgiveness and gratitude, self-love takes a lot of courage to do. It takes a lot of strength. So here's the metaphor I want to give you guys, and I think everyone would resonate with this, is that your trauma is a child. I want you guys to think of your trauma as a child. And your trauma is the way that it plays out right now is it's the pain that you have in your body when you go out and you approach women. It's the pain that you have when you want to open up, get vulnerable. The pain that you feel when you get rejected, right? It's all those feelings, all those knots in your body. And I want you guys to start thinking of that pain as a child, as a little child, as a helpless little child that's, in a sense it is, right? It's a part of you that's unintegrated. There's a little 3-year-old or a 5-year-old inside of you that is not integrated, that is not accepted, that is not loved, that is not allowed to be there, that is judged constantly, that is constantly criticized, that is never accepted. Whether that's feelings of apathy, sadness, shame, guilt, anxiety, that's a little child inside of you that you have not accepted, that is shut out, that is left outside in the cold and in the rain, and that is hidden constantly from both yourself and from other people. It's like a little kid that you threw in the basement. And the key to healing and to really becoming a truly confident, powerful man is to be able to bring that child home and to make him feel like he belongs, to accept him, to allow him to be himself. To allow him to exist without judgment, without criticism. So how do you do this? Well, that's what we're doing here, is we feel our emotions. When you allow your emotions to be felt, and you even begin to love your emotions for what they are, and stop resisting them, you give that child an ability to breathe, in a sense. You accept him. That's why we do all those exercises in our online program where we say, I help you guys learn how to say welcome to your emotions, thank you to your emotions, I love you to your emotions. It's because you're learning to give a part of you to a little unintegrated part of you the ability to be there without judgment, without resistance. And that's the most important part, is just accepting that you feel what you feel. Because why wouldn't you? It is what it is, right? It's in a sense a little bit delusional to fight what is. It's you feel sadness, this is what you're feeling right now. Is fighting that going to change that you're feeling what you're feeling? No, it's only going to make it worse. You feel sadness right now, that's the present moment. You need to learn to become friends with the present moment. That's what's happening right now. The same way that when you guys have your own children and you have a kid crying, are you going to beat him? Are you going to yell at him? Are you going to neglect him just because he's crying? No. If anything, the more that you neglect your children, the more that you scold them, yell at them, the more pain they're going to be in, the more they're going to cry, the more they're going to scream, the more scared they're going to be. And the more that you just hold them in your arms and say, it's okay, welcome, you belong. You're allowed to feel what you feel. The more joy they start to feel. So the reason why you guys feel so much anxiety and so much pain when you go out and you try to improve your dating life is because you're not accepting the feelings that you feel. You're in resistance to them. And that's why you're constantly walking around with like a little 3-year-old inside of you or a 5-year-old inside of you. So the key, guys, is, as I said, forgive others what they did to you. Forgive yourself for going through what you went through. That's another big piece, is forgive yourself. A lot of us can't forgive ourselves for what happened. You didn't know any better. You were naive. You did the best that you could. Maybe you were insecure in a situation. Maybe you got too needy with a certain person. It's okay. Forgive yourself. If you got cheated on, if you got abandoned, just forgive yourself. You did the best that you could. Be grateful for the lesson that you learned and the value that you gained from that. And finally, let yourself feel what you feel. And start to even love what you feel. And when you guys do that, you will heal all of your trauma. All of it. And a lot of people like talk about confidence and what confidence means. I used to have a lot of misconceptions around confidence. I thought confidence meant being like outwardly the most dominant, aggressive person in the room, just, you know, being super assertive all the time. That's not what confidence means. Confidence, to me right now, means being integrated. It means being emotionally healthy. It means loving and accepting every single part of myself. Even the parts of yourself that you think are unacceptable, you have to accept those parts as well. I've done some shit in my life that I'm very, very not proud of. I'm not going to give you guys every example out there, but there's a lot of stuff that I did that I'm not proud of. In my childhood, in my teenage years, even in my adulthood, there's things that I'm very, very ashamed of. But you must accept that you did what you did, that you felt what you felt, that you thought what you thought in whatever moments, and that you did the best that you could. And ultimately, to heal your trauma, you must become your own parent. You have to reparent yourself. You have to become your own daddy, in a sense. So, give yourself the love that maybe your parents never gave you, that the women you dated never gave you. Give yourself both the feminine and the masculine love that you want. Give yourself so much fucking love that you don't even know what to do with it. Just drench yourself in love. And I promise you, when you do that, you will bring so much love to other people. And you're going to have a completely different energy.